Hello viewers, welcome to our weather station. Now I'm going to describe the instrument we call wind vane. Wind vane is an instrument which will help us to know the direction of the wind. Now the wind vane has a pointed arrow which is the head, and we normally say the head points the direction where the wind is coming from, and the tail points with the direction where the wind is blowing to. Now, as from now, you can see that the southern, our head is on the southern part. So the winds are coming from the southern, going to the northern side. Now, the reason why it is that one, maybe it can be of interest, is that because we know in August, the sun is in the northern hemisphere. It is over it in areas like Ethiopia and Sudan. And it is creating low pressures in those areas. So there is high pressure to the south. So you find that winds during this time mainly come from south, going to the north. Although we normally say it is south, they come from southeast going to the northwest. Now, how do we balance the wind vane? The wind vane has to be balanced so that the head and the tail balances. Now, because the head is shorter than the tail, it gives us a condition whereby we have to know that the head is heavier than the tail. As I can demonstrate now, you can see the head of the wind vane is shorter than the tail. The tail is this part, which is long. So the head is shorter than the tail. That means that the head is heavier than the tail. Because if you want to balance two things, the one which is heavy should be near the fulcrum. So that is how it is. And it should be freely rotating, so that if there is wind from whichever side, the wind vane is going to turn, and it will give you the proper wind direction. Now, the wind vane, it should be put 10 meters from the ground. That is the required standard globally. All surface winds are actually measured at 10 meters above the ground. The purpose why it is 10 meters is to avoid what we call obstacle and friction. So our wind vane should be installed in that one. And also it should be open. There should be no trees or no obstacles or no tall buildings obstructing our instrument, so that we can get proper wind direction. Now, the units now, when we are recording wind direction, now for example, it is coming, the winds are from south. So our winds are normally recorded using degrees from true north. So when the winds are coming from south, our indicator, our meter should read like that one. That means it is coming from 180 degrees, that is south. So it is given in degrees, or you can give it a compass point like northeast, east, or west, or something like that one. But still, they have to be the same. It is south and it is 180. So it is possible to know where the winds are coming from. Now, the importance of winds. It is important to know the winds. In meteorological, winds will help us to know to do weather forecast. Because when you do analysis about winds, which is normally called isogon analysis, you are going to know where the winds are converging and where the winds are diverging, and upon knowing those ones, you are going to come up with the proper weather forecast of an area. So if you analyze winds, you are going to get those things. Another thing about the winds is that winds regimes, when you want to put up structures like washrooms or toilets or dump site or factories and residential areas. So you are going to use winds data to come up with the proper areas of setting up or putting up structures which will maybe for community use. Now another thing about the winds is that when you want to set up, let's say airports, when you want to build runways in airports, it has to go with the winds, because aircraft should always land in orientation with the winds. They should land and take off against the wind. So a condition whereby airports are built without considering wind data, you are going to get maybe things like crosswind, whereby winds will strike aircraft from sides, and it can cause problem, it can cause even accident. So to come up with the proper airstrips or airports, runways, you have to consider wind regimes in an area. So you have to collect data, come up with average, so that most of the time that the airport will be in use, instead of staying maybe lying idle for very many days in 1 year. So you have to go with the statistics. A long time ago, it was used for communication. Maybe people would light fire, and that smoke will go, and then it was going to take some communication. Now, the wind data or the knowledge of winds was actually very much exploited by those people who are sailors. Sailors were actually using wind regime, especially a long time ago. People used to have ships and they didn't have engines. So it was difficult to run. So people will tie sails or sheets, so that those sheets will be driven by the winds, and that one was able to help those air people to explore some areas in other which were actually across the big oceans or seas. So actually it is for navigation purpose. It was for navigation purpose. Thank you.